Ocean, a successful graphic designer, discovers she has been deliberately excluded from her cousin Fiona's bridal events. As family members gaslight and ostracize her, Ocean's personal and professional life is tested. With the support of close friends and a blossoming partnership with Matteo, she stops seeking familial validation and organizes an intimate, authentic celebration of love and community. The event goes viral, catalyzing career success and shifting the family narrative, but Ocean's growth is the real resolution, not the social victory. The camera opens on a close-up of a hand, narrow, ink-stained fingertips, letting a ceramic mug slip. It rotates in slow motion, porcelain fracturing into prismatic pieces on tile. The sound is sharp and final. Ocean doesn't reach for it. Her thumb scrolls, eyes fixed on her phone. The light from the screen stains her face in cold blue. Images flick past, sunlit tables, champagne foam catching the light, flower crowns, Fiona mid-laugh. There's a table shot with coral and mint centerpieces, a snapshot with Aunt Marlene smiling like a curator of praise. Ocean counts silently, each smiling face like a tally. 34. The number becomes a line in the air between her and the room. She pushes away from the counter and stands at her small kitchen window, where the city slopes away in a web of roofs. In the reflection, she sees years, childhood birthdays, quiet applause given to others. Her chest tightens, not with surprise so much as recognition, a pattern. The light outside is generous, but inside it carves her in half. She calls her mother. The ring slides to the fourth beat before the voice. Ocean's voice is flat as glass. There was a shower. Yesterday. Why wasn't I invited? On the other end, the response arrives like an instruction manual, a calm, rehearsed dismissal. Marlene thinks it's best this way. Fiona deserves a day without drama. The phrase lands like a practice knife. Ocean hears, in the voicing and in the silence between the words, the finishing touch of consensus. This wasn't an accident. She walks through her apartment as if mapping evidence, sketchbooks, color swatches, a stack of framed logos tied with a blue ribbon. The design samples are scattered trophies of a life built piece by piece. Her thumb takes a screenshot of the group message before it's deleted, a small act of defiance. The image pings into the camera, 3 names, a line of cruelty disguised as concern. She captures it and then watches the message vanish. The camera follows her to the mailbox stacked with invoices and a card with pressed flowers, her own handwriting on Fiona's congratulations from last month. She touches the card like someone checking a pulse. A cardinal lands on the balcony rail, silhouette small and impossibly bright against a city gray. For a moment the bird looks back, unafraid. Ocean breathes and the room tightens around her like a memory. She arranges her work table with methodical calm, tools, rulers, a cup of pens aligned, the same ordered ritual she's used when the world felt stable. She sketches a serif and script pairing and notices, in the negative space, how much of herself she has been taught to compress. There's anger, yes, but it arrives coolly, shaped. She dials Aunt Marlene next, not to plead, but to anchor the fact in sound. Aunt Marlene answers like she answers a ledger, crisp, efficient, authoritative. You shouldn't be there, she says. No apology. The sentence is both verdict and explanation. Ocean lists facts, the cards she sent, the offers she made. Marlene's replies are thin with the practiced mythology of family. We avoid drama. You know how you are. It is not the first time the story has been told. The camera pulls back as Ocean listens, the city receding. Her face is made of quiet decisions. In the pause between the lines, she recognizes what the exclusion has always been about: control, image, the performance of family. The shot shifts from close to medium, like someone stepping into focus. Ocean straightens. There will be consequences, losses, and betrayals, but the first scene ends on a small, stubborn motion. She saves the screenshot, tucks it into a leather-bound journal, and writes the date. The hand that writes is steady. The bird on the balcony lifts and, for the first time in the film, flies away. The next morning, the city is a soft hum and Ocean wakes to the hollow echo of group chat whispers. She goes through the routine: coffee, checking email, opening her portfolio to a pile of unread client notes. The world of designed fonts, white space, balance feels like a shelter and a battleground. A message arrives from Barton Media. We heard you're difficult. We're stepping away. She reads it twice, the sentence a compacted blow. She maps the connections like a crime scene. The marketing director plays tennis with her uncle. Westerly Home Goods pulls out, citing corporate fit. The numbers on her revenue sheet blink like wounds. Isla arrives at noon with Thai food in a box and a camera bag over her shoulder. She moves through ocean space like an ally with practiced calm, arranging napkins and pouring wine into chipped glasses that gleam like small flags of defiance. Isla's eyes skim the work table, linger on the portfolio. You look like you swallowed glass, she says, no pity. The remark is a bridge. Pity is not the plan. Instead, Isla offers a map. We build something that's about you. Authentic. No apologies. As they plan, Ocean's phone buzzes with a thin, anonymous text. Some people aren't stable enough for formal events. Your absence is kind. The message is a crystallized version of the rumor. It lands without signature. Ocean lets it sit on the screen, then shows it to Isla. Instead of rage, Isla offers strategy. Document everything. People will believe what's loudest, but we can make truth louder. Ocean starts a leather-bound journal, listing dates, characters, and quotations, micro-evidence that becomes ritual and armor. She reworks a logo, each line an act of reclamation. Yet isolation presses at the edges. She skips Marigold Coffee because she sees Aunt Marlene's bridge club meet there in the faces of women she knows how to read. The camera lingers on Ocean walking past the storefront, shoulders braced, a small exile narrating itself in footsteps. Mateo arrives in a soft film of light. He's first introduced through contrast, gentle, steady hands that untangle string and move like someone who repairs. He brings coffee and news of a job outside the city, a shoot in Santa Barbara that requires a creative assistant. Come, he suggests offhand, make it a working weekend. His voice is an offer, not rescue. He doesn't require proof, only presence. Ocean hesitates. Her life is tethered to deadlines and small victories, yet the idea of leaving to work beside someone who sees her as colleague and co-conspirator feels dangerous and necessary. Her mother calls while Ocean drafts save the dates she never intended to send. Their conversation is measured and indirect, bargaining, pressure, performative sorrow. We only want what's best, her mother says, the phrase a hinge that opens to coercion. Her father's financial mentions are thin threats of withdrawal. Ocean hears the economic leverage being wielded like a gavel. When the event invitations for Fiona's wedding appear on social media, late, bright, perfectly curated, a slash of something like anger and grief flares through Ocean. She sketches an invitation for her own gathering almost on impulse, not yet public, with small careful details, hand-pressed botanicals, a narrow guest list, places for laughter rather than spectacle. The idea forms in the negative space between insult and creation. Her local network, Isla, Mateo, Thomas, a kindly friend who loves wine, Gianna, a florist turned orchestrator, begins to conspire in the margins. Texts arrive like small constellations. Can I bring wine? I'll photograph. We'll help set tables. The community forms not out of obligation but because they want to. Ocean begins to feel the small pull of another life, one where celebration is chosen, not brokered. The pressure mounts, but this time it's internal. Will she arrange her joy around their narrative or build a day that fits her life? At night, Ocean stands on her balcony. The cardinal returns again and this time doesn't leave. It watches her, the red a punctuation against twilight. She folds a sheet of paper into a list, who she would invite, who she wouldn't, and folds it into a pocket of a sketchbook. The list is small, intimate, and the act of naming becomes liberation. In the quiet, she makes the first real decision of the story, to plan a celebration for herself and those who choose to be with her on her terms. Ocean schedules the villa weekend with Mateo. The announcement is private at first, a save-the-date mock-up buried in his email drafts, but in the quiet mornings she begins to design it as if constructing a small cathedral, Typeface is chosen for warmth, place cards with hand-drawn botanicals, a playlist stitched from the small moments people have loved together. The act of designing becomes ritual, and with each new draft, she feels the old invisible rope around her chest loosen. Then Aunt Marlene calls. Her voice is syrup-sweet with controlled alarm. You can't have your event on May 15th. That's Fiona's date now. It was moved. The line is a poised attempt at sabotage. For the first time, Ocean feels panic breathe in her ear. Did she unknowingly collide with their plans? The phone becomes a mediator for pressure. Ocean checks. She never received a formal invite to Fiona's so-called new date. The accusation reads as a power play, force compliance by manufacturing conflict. Ocean has a moment of temptation. She could cancel, postpone, fold back into the safety zone that has always preserved familial peace. The camera closes on her hands, hovering over the keyboard. She thinks of every time she minimized herself to suit the room. She thinks of the ledger of slights and the leaking of clients. Her throat tightens, but a gentle, dangerous clarity forms. Mateo watches without sentimentality. His quiet solidity presses against the panic like a steadying hand. She answers Aunt Marlene with a measured no. We set our date before we knew anything. We will not move it. People can choose. The line is taught with consequence. The response is immediate backlash. The family chat ripples with whispered outrage, passive-aggressive posts, and direct messages from relatives, some demanding explanation, others beginning to label Ocean as selfish. The tactic works partially, controversy becomes currency, and the family plays on social optics by presenting her as the provocateur. In the days after that exchange, Ocean's professional life hits another bruise. A major vendor drops her after Aunt Marlene's circle distributes a version of the story, one that casts Ocean as unstable and difficult. Contracts evaporate like morning mist. The financial bite is real. The camera shows invoices and unpaid bills in a small, clinical montage. Yet, alongside the losses, grassroots support grows. People who've worked with Ocean share testimonials, small clients offer referral leads, an editor from a wedding blog expresses curiosity about her intimate approach. The pressure and the possibility become braided. Then the anonymous message arrives, more insidious than before. You're doing this on purpose. How selfish. The words are synthesized cruelty. This time, the message gains bite because it's a refrain echoing across different channels. Even Grandma receives a version of the story, one that frames Ocean as the instigator. The hits arrive in waves. One by one, acquaintances begin to distance themselves until Ocean's phone buzzes mostly with good intentions or offers from her chosen family, Isla, Mateo, Thomas. At the midpoint, Ocean makes a different kind of decision. She pitches the seaside ceremony idea to a small wedding blog she's admired. In the email, she writes less like someone begging and more like a designer offering a narrative. I want to design a day that honors chosen connections, she types, closing the message with an image of her hand-lettered menu. The reply, unexpected, is immediate interest. The twist is not external vindication yet, it's Ocean's internal renunciation of the need to be what her family says she is. She realizes that their power over her came from her acceptance of their terms. She begins to see her work not as salvageable approval, but as a life she built. The cardinal appears again in the frame, perched on a rooftop wire, watching. Ocean inhales and, for the first time, the breath is for herself. Plans accelerate. Mateo handles logistics, renting a coastal villa, lining up a chef from a local market, mapping out the sunset light for portraits, while Ocean obsessively composes the visual heartbeat, menus, small favors, vows written not to an audience, but to those who choose to witness. Her portfolio becomes a prayer and a proof. Friends transform into a mini-crew. Thomas curates wine. Gianna finds wildflowers that smell like late afternoons. Isla plans detail shots for the blog feature. Meanwhile, the family narrative keeps churning. Aunt Marlene launches a private campaign of guilt and fear among relatives, concerns about the grandmother's heart, the embarrassment of divided attendance, the optics of two events. A compromise is proposed in person. Ocean can attend Fiona's evening reception if she cancels or postpones her seaside celebration. The premise is absurd. Sacrifice your chosen joy for their peace. The camera lingers on Ocean's face as she hears the pitch, the calculation of social currency spoken like a demand. Ocean chooses differently. She shows the family her portfolio and the contracts she's signed, the emails that prove her work's traction. She does so not as accusation, but as exposition. Here is who I am. This is what I make. These are the people who value me. For the first time, her achievements are not footnotes, but objects she puts on the table. The reveal shifts the room slightly. Her mother's posture falters as the truth becomes tactile. Aunt Marlene's face hardens. Tensions rise toward the ceremony week. The blog's editor informs Ocean that a feature is possible but contingent on exclusive access, language that would draw public attention. Ocean is tempted by the exposure. She also fears being framed as spectacle. She negotiates terms. Authenticity, no manufactured outrage, no family dramatic angles. The editor agrees. In the final run-up, unanticipated cracks in the family's story appear, conflicting versions of the exclusion surface in cousin messages, a tape of contradictions that weakens the unified front Marlene crafted. An uncle privately texts wishing to hear Ocean's side. A grandmother, who has been a steady presence for years, calls with a simple question: what really happened? The call is a fragile olive branch. At the villa, last-minute details are resolved by candlelight. Ocean rehearses small gestures, how to greet someone, which people to hug, where to stand for photos, less to perform for the family and more to ensure the ceremony stays intimate. The seaside wind keeps interrupting, carrying with it the smell of salt and the promise of horizon. The cardinal motif appears once more, a red dot on a rooftop, as if the world insists on color even in the gray of conflict. As guests arrive, 18 in number, Ocean recognizes faces familiar not by obligation, but by choice. Each encounter is a new grammar of belonging. There's a hush before she walks to the place where vows might be read, and the camera pulls tight on the small, steadying inhalations of those assembled. Outside, a distant chime marks the beginning. The stakes are emotional. Can she hold joy in front of the people who tried to erase her? The answer will come soon. The ceremony opens in a hush of late light. Guests stand among low-slung tables draped in linen and scattered with wildflowers, faces warmed by incandescent bulbs and the soft red on the coastline's horizon. Ocean stands at the edge of a terrace, the ocean spread behind her like a sheet of possibility. Mateo takes her hand with the uncomplicated gravity of someone who's chosen to stand with her, not for her. There's no grand entrance, no over-orchestrated spectacle, only a gathering shaped by quiet intention. When Ocean speaks to welcome everyone, she does not recite grievances or indictments. Instead, she names gratitude for the friends who listened, the people who showed, the choices that led them here. Her voice is steady. The camera lingers on small faces, Isla smiling with tears, Thomas's steady presence, Gianna's fingers worrying a napkin. These are witnesses who came by love. Aunt Marlene's presence is felt at first through the ripples of phone notifications, comments about the blog feature, murmurs of family gossip, but not through attendance. Some relatives did choose Fiona, others chose Ocean. That nuance matters less than the fact that Ocean's Day exists on its own terms. The blog photographer clicks and the editor murmurs approval into a recorder. When the feature goes live, it's not immediate vindication, it's a quiet amplification of a day rooted in truth. Yet the emotional climax hits not because thousands will see it later, but because Ocean allows herself joy in front of people who knew her when she was not a sum of others' stories. She dances for one song, an awkward, sincere movement that becomes contagious. Laughter, real and generous, breaks across the terrace. Mid-ceremony, a family member arrives. Grandma, who has listened to differing stories all week, walks in a little breathless, eyes searching. She pauses at the edge, then steps forward to embrace Ocean. The camera collapses the distance into a hand held tight, an intimate, small reconciliation. It's not a clean absolution for everyone, but it is the most human beat of the night. After the speeches, the editor requests a candid interview about Ocean's design choices, and the conversation reframes the narrative. Ocean's work is a manifesto for authenticity in celebration design. The words on the record about craft, attention, and choosing who witnesses your life become a thesis. The ceremony is not a retaliation, it is a demonstration. As twilight folds into a star-splattered blue, Ocean stands alone for a moment and watches the guests blend like watercolor. The cardinal passes overhead, its red a punctuation point. Ocean feels the consequence of choosing herself, a soft relief and a wild, bracing exhilaration. The camera holds on her face, not triumphant in social terms, but unbound in her own skin. The moment is the story's emotional apex. She has made love public on her terms and invited only those who wanted to stay. The blog runs the piece and response ripples outward. Comments arrive, lengthy, grateful notes about reclaiming ceremonies from spectacle, messages from couples who felt permission to scale down their weddings. Ocean's inbox fills with client queries and feature requests. The surge is a practical result, but the deeper shift is a quiet recalibration. Ocean sleeps with less dread, designs with more clarity, and laughs without checking if it will be mined for gossip. Time settles forward. Mateo and Ocean move into a smaller apartment near the water, trading a skyline for the hum of fairy bells. The walls are modest, but painted with sunlit palettes they both prefer. Ocean's calendar swells with meaningful projects. Brands reach out with offers that value her voice rather than demand conformity. Her portfolio begins to provide space for others who find their stories in her designs. Aunt Marlene appears at a local design showcase where Ocean is headlining. She arrives with Fiona, the posture of someone carrying both expectation and unease. The exchange is small and sharp. Marlene speaks, thinly veiled reproach about public exposure. Ocean listens, polite but unshaken. Fiona's glance is complicated, perhaps curiosity, perhaps shame. The encounter passes without catharsis. No sweeping apologies, only the quiet, grown-up firmness of someone who no longer needs them. The grandmother, meanwhile, restores a relationship in small increments, visits, phone calls, and honest, rambling conversations about old recipes and holidays. They do not erase prior harms, but they build an alternate, careful way forward. This is the film's emotional logic. Healing is selective and cumulative, not a single tidy act. Months later, a courier delivers a cream envelope from Aunt Marlene. Within it, a clipped note suggesting Ocean decline an interview, out of respect for Fiona. Ocean tucks the letter into a drawer. She could respond, pursue a conversation, demand restitution. Instead, she returns to her studio, opens a new swatch book, and begins a commission for a nonprofit design project, a task that aligns with her ethics rather than her parents' expectations. On the balcony at dusk, Ocean and Mateo sit side by side. Mateo reaches for Ocean's hand. She rests her head on his shoulder and looks out at the ocean of lights. The cardinal motif surfaces one final time, a fleeting red wing across a rooftop far below. Ocean smiles, not because her family's narrative was overturned entirely, nor because viral numbers validated her, but because she has stopped letting other people cast her. The final shot is a close-up of a finished invitation, pressed botanical, warm type, a line that reads simply, "Gather what matters." The camera lingers as the light fades. The last line, spoken softly by Ocean in voiceover, is neither triumph nor lament but a lesson. I stopped rearranging myself for people who never learned to see. Fade to black. End.